No matter how bad or messed up your past is, God promises us a brighter future. And one of the ways God does this is by giving us wisdom. If you want a brighter future, you need wisdom. Wisdom to make the correct decisions. A brighter future is held in the hands of wisdom. Wisdom given by God.
Decisions, decisions, decisions. Where are you today in life? Are you where you want to be? Are you happy, sad, or indifferent? Where you are is a direct result of every decision you have made up to this point in your life. At the time, some decision may have seemed inconsequential, while others were major life decisions. But in the end, all of these decisions form together to create the person you are today and the life you live. Knowing this, that where we are today is a result of our decisions, don't we all want the wonderful ability to make great decisions? I cannot stress to you the importance of the ability to make good decisions. One bad decision will have you reeling for 30 years. I know. I've made some bad decisions, and I know you have too. Wisdom is what we need. Wisdom is what I need. Wisdom is what you need. So where do I gain wisdom? Here is the starting point. Proverbs 9, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding.
Wisdom. Proverbs 8 verse 11 says, "For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it." Wisdom is the greatest quality of life. Everyone is a reflection of the level of wisdom they possess. The greater your wisdom, the better your life will be. Proverbs 8 verse 11 establishes that wisdom is better and more valuable than treasures, and that of all the things we desire on earth, there is nothing that can be compared to it. If a fool inherits great riches, the riches will become lost in no distant time due to the lack of wisdom to maintain it. But a man or woman of wisdom can amass great wealth from a little beginning. Wisdom is God's ability in a person which enables such a person to live right and to make the right decisions. King Solomon described wisdom as the most important life virtue which everyone should have. In Proverbs 4 verse 7, which says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding." The first thing everyone should pursue at in life is wisdom. When you get wisdom, to get other things will be quite easier. Wisdom can be seen as the navigational compass needed for direction in life. When a person loses wisdom, he or she will lose direction in life. It takes wisdom to make decisions. Life is full of choices and decisions. Although you are at liberty to choose whatever you decide to do, you cannot choose the consequence of your actions. Wisdom's role is to enhance the right choices in life. Unfortunately, many have turned deaf ears to the cry of wisdom. There are many people who are still living in the hurts of past wrong decisions they have made because they gave little or no attention to wisdom while they were making their choices. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding are three different virtues. Of the three, wisdom is the king. Knowledge implies a sense of fact. Understanding means knowing the why to what you know, while wisdom is the actual application of knowledge and understanding. Today we have many people who are not ignorant. They know what is right, but they choose not to practice it. Many believers can rehearse the Bible. They hear what it says, but they're not ready to act. James book 1 verses 22 to 25. "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, This one will be blessed in what he does. In Matthew 7, verses 24 to 26, Jesus described those who hear his words and practice them as wise, and those who hear his word for hearing's sake as fools. Jesus says, "Therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. But everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand." Jesus didn't compare anyone to a fool because he does not know what his word says, but because having received the knowledge of it and still would not practice it. Although knowledge is the foundation for wisdom, it is not regarded as wisdom until it is practiced. That is why Proverbs 19 verse 20 says, "Listen to counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter days." Wisdom is not just limited to knowing. It proves itself in spoken words and in actions. We need wisdom in all of our relationships. We need wisdom to know when and how to speak. How you say a thing is more important than what you intended to say. It is wisdom that helps to draw the borderline. There are several persons that would say a word or act before they think about what they have said or done. You cannot reverse what you have said, and you cannot undo what has already been done. Many people regret after a deed has been done because they do not have the wisdom to weigh the effects of their actions before carrying it out. Wisdom is your ability to make good decisions. Proverbs 21 verse 23, "Whoever guards his mouth and tongue, keep his soul from troubles." Sometimes, wisdom will demand that you remain silent. At other times, it will demand that you speak up. Proverbs 10 verse 19, "In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise." It is not all matters that you have to react to, and it is also not all matters that you have to be quiet about. Wisdom is the compass that gives you the right direction each time. A wise person will hardly be caught in the web of his or her words because they are thoughtfully spoken, but a fool reacts without thinking of his or her actions. Proverbs 29 verse 20 states, "Do you see a man hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than for him." Divine wisdom was fully in display in the life and ministry of Jesus while he was on earth. There were several instances Jesus would have gotten into trouble, if not that he had the wisdom to approach different matters. For instance, the Pharisees sought for several occasions to rope him through his words. In one of those instances, they asked him whether it was lawful to pay tax to Caesar. Jesus knew that their intention was to find fault with him. His answer was seasoned with wisdom. And Jesus, answering, said unto them, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they marveled at him. Mark 12, verse 17. Every leader needs the wisdom of God to lead and to judge rightly. Parents also need the wisdom of God to raise their children. There is actually no area of one's life that does not require the wisdom of God. Wisdom is a divine gift. Only God can give it to a person. Fortunately, God is willing to give us His wisdom if we would ask from Him. James 1 verses 5 and 6 says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed." God is ready to give wisdom to as many that would ask Him in faith. He is liberal in releasing His wisdom to us if we would be humble enough to ask Him. The problem that many people have is that they do not even believe that God would answer their prayers. As such, when they pray, they would not see the desired result. Mark 11 verse 24 says that we need to believe before we see that which we have requested for. But many of us are trying to reverse the order. We want to see what we prayed for before we believe that God can do it. No one would ever receive anything from God in such a manner. God is our Father, and He is a wise God. In fact, God is all-knowing. Therefore, it is an aberration for us to live as fools. He is willing to give us wisdom if we would ask from Him.